Welcome to Code in Place. I am the Sham server, and today we are going to solve an interesting problem. Let's dive in. Suppose if there is a person on Earth, what will be their weight on Mars? So that's our problem, Mars weight problem. So let's discuss the problem statement. An Earthling's weight on Mars is 37.8% of their weight on Earth. Write a Python program that prompts the user an Earthling to enter their weight on Earth and prints their calculated weight on Mars. So let's understand this by an example. We have a person on Earth whose weight is 60 kg. So in order to find their weight on Mars, we need to multiply 60 kg with 37.8%, and the resulting value will be the weight on Mars, which is 22.68 kg in our case. So let's break down the problem. First, we need to get an input from the user, which will be the Earthling's weight. Then we need to calculate the weight on Mars by multiplying the Earthling's weight with 37.8%. After that, we need to show the result to the user, the weight on Mars. Okay. Before writing the Python program for this, let's review some concepts. Variable and constants. Think of them like a tiny box in a computer in which you can store something. Like you can store something and give it a name. Okay. So variables can change throughout the program. For example, if you have a year variable, you can change it in the program later to another value. Okay, but in case of constant, you are not supposed to change its value throughout the program. So for example, if you have a gravity value constant in your program, then you are not going to change it later in the program. Okay, so we name variables with all lowercase letters, and we name constants with all uppercase letters. That's just a naming style. Okay. Data types. There are different types of data. We have integers, which are positive or negative numbers, and floating point numbers, and then we have Boolean true or false, and string, which is sequence of characters. So we can store different types of data in our variables or constants. Okay, let's move next. Typecasting. Think of typecasting as if you have oranges and you put them in juicer and convert them into juice, liquid form. You're converting their type. In similar way, we have typecasting in programming, in which we convert one type of data to another. For example, if we have string, we can convert it into floating point value using a Python's built-in function float. Okay, there are different typecasting functions which we can use to convert one data type into another. Okay, let's dive into the code. So first we have a value 37.8%. It's the multiple which we will be using to calculate the weight on Mars. We cannot write percent symbol in Python, so we are going to convert it into a uh, floating point value. So that's why we convert it into a floating point value and write it here, and then assign this value to this constant. Okay, Mars multiple. Then we need to get Earthling's weight from user, and for that we are going to use input built-in function, and we will be showing user a prompt like enter Earthling's weight, and then user will enter the value, and the default type of the value we get from input function will be string, and we will be assigning this value to this variable weight on Earth str. Okay, as now we have a string value. Okay, in Python we cannot multiply numbers with string, so there is a type mismatch. We will get a type error if we multiply a number with a string. For example, if I do here, if I enter weight here, it will give me a type error. It says can't multiply sequence with non-int of type float. Okay, let's clear the screen. So that's why we are converting this string value into floating point value. Okay, and then we will assign this value to weight on Earth. After that, we will be multiplying the Mars multiple with the weight on Earth. Okay, in order to get the weight on Mars. Okay, and then we will be using the Python's built-in function to print the weight on Mars. Okay, here what we are doing, we are combining this string uh, with weight on Mars using plus operator, and you can notice here we are also typecasting here. In We cannot combine string with the number, so we have to convert this number into string, and then we can combine it. Okay, otherwise it will give us again a type error. And let's run it. Okay, we entered the 60 weight, and we got the equivalent weight on Mars. So this process of combining these strings is called concatenation. So let's recap what we learned so far. Okay, we learned about variables and constants. Variables, we can change variable throughout the program, and constants, we are not supposed to change them throughout the program. Then data types, there are different types of data which we can store in variables and constants. And then we have typecasting. We can convert one type of data to another using typecasting. And then we have concatenation. We can combine one or more strings together using plus operator in Python. And that's it. Thank you.